But Tony Pollard, we've talked about he's a really nice guy. Another group of people that are nice people are Canadians.
They are.
Canada's preeminent wide receiver, Chase Claypool, was also known as Mapletron, also known as Slot Pool, also known as Mid Pool. He was.
This is why you don't get to give players names anymore. No more nicknames from you.
I think it's good.
Mid Pool. That's
a Kosh. That's a Kosh.
Oh, okay. A Kosh.
That's not my nickname.
You gotta stop putting mid in everyone's name.
Yeah, Makash called him mid-pool. Chase Claypool gets traded to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick. And the prevailing thought on this was that it is a terrible move for the Chicago Bears. And the fun thing is that Chase Claypool exists like in this weird realm of NFL players where it's like he's relevant enough for fantasy that like we all have thoughts about Chase Claypool, but he's not relevant enough for fantasy that anybody's really out there talking about what you should do with Chase Claypool because he doesn't really matter that much. But people like were really more talking about like what do we think this means for Justin Fields? What do we think this means for the other Pittsburgh receivers? What do we think that this means for like in the NFL sense? Is this a good move or a bad move? And I'll start first, if you want to give a fantasy take on Chase Claypool. I personally think Chase Claypool is a guy where it's like he showed enough in his rookie year that I feel like he's not going away. He's like clearly an NFL player, but he's regressed / plateaued to the point where it's pretty clear he's not going to ever be a difference-making player. So he's like a guy where if people are like, I literally just don't want even this guy on my roster, I'll take him on my roster. If people are like, I think this guy's going to break out, I'll be like, here you go. Give me a round 2 pick so that I can re-roll. That's where I'm at on Claypool. Do you feel any differently? And then I kind of want to talk about this more from an NFL sense because I think that's interesting.
I think Chase Claypool is perhaps a little bit more interesting than you do. And the reason for that is it kind of popped in my sophomore comps process.
Yeah, he had a great rookie year.
Yeah, he had a really good, really strong rookie year.
I was super into him after year 1.
It was really a tale of touchdowns, though. He scored 11 touchdowns in his rookie year, somewhere thereabouts.
But he also earned a pretty high targets per route run.
Yeah, he did. They didn't play him much, I don't think, early in the year.
Well, they didn't. He had a weird rookie year. They barely played him early in the year, and then they played him a lot. And then late in the year, even though he had been good, they scaled him back, and that was kind of a weird red flag. And then it was the same thing that happened in year 2, where he started off early in year 2. He wasn't producing anything, but his peripherals were pretty decent. And then Juju goes out, and it was like, okay, finally he's going to get to run all the routes. Like, it's just going to be him and Deontay. They're both going to be 85 to 90% plus route participation guys. He's always earned targets at a pretty good clip. This is going to be awesome. And then the first couple of weeks, he just wasn't earning targets anymore at a very good clip. And then he kind of started turning it around. He had a couple decent games mixed in, but the offense just wasn't working. And then he did that dumb thing with the not getting the ball to the referee in time. Yeah, and then they started scaling back his playing time. They started playing Ray McLeod more. They started playing James Washington again for some reason. And so then he just never really had.
Oh my God! Did you know that James Washington, according to the Pittsburgh media, was in fact good enough to be a starter on nearly every team in football, like a wide receiver 1 party, not a starter, the wide receiver 1 on every team in football except for
Pittsburgh media is just completely deranged.
It's are they beating these guys? Chase Claypool once said, not that long ago, that he is a top 3 wide receiver, and he did not mean on his team. He meant in the entire world.
Yeah. I actually like Claypool. I think he's fun, and I think that he kind of got a bad rap. I think he's a fun personality. I like that he has a personality. I'm rooting for him. I mean, this year was he basically just played this slot role, which is honestly a pretty good role for him because despite being big, he's not actually very good at contested catches. He looks like Mike Williams, and he reaches for the ball like Mike Williams, but Mike Williams always comes down with it. Chase Claypool usually doesn't.
Just can't make that comparison. I feel like Chase Claypool to me is like my Mike Williams, where I'm
but he's poverty Mike Williams because he's not actually that good at contested catches.
I just think he's going to play a lot, and he's going to be on the field a lot, and he's going to make splash plays from time to time. And people are going to get excited about that because he's 6'5" and 250 pounds and the most athletic player in football.
I think he's like a uniquely weird player though, because he's not actually that good at like the big boy wide receiver things, but he is a really dynamic athlete. Like, and in terms of what he's best at, like they give him rushing attempts on end rounds and stuff.
Yeah.
He's like pretty good after the catch. Like they were using him in a big slot role this year, and I thought that was a pretty good role for him. The problem was it's just Pittsburgh was so crowded. Like they have Deontay, who's a massive target earner. They have Pickens, who's good. They have Claypool, who's pretty good. They have Freiermuth, who's pretty good.
Pickens is good.
Like I think he's like good in an NFL sense. Yeah, he's a good player.
What?
I'm lower than the consensus on him in Dynasty, but like he's clearly good.
Really good.
Right? Like so
clearly good.
Yeah, like they had Deontay, who's like a massive target earner, and then they had minimum 3 other like starting quality good NFL players running routes on every play. And so it's just like hard to, and then that's fun if you have a good quarterback, but they had not a good quarterback. They had Pitch Trubisky and they had Kenny Pickett. So
things are rough.
What's really going to happen? I am kind of excited about Claypool in Chicago.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, the issue is though. Like, I also think is Claypool that much better than Mooney? Like, I think they're both kind of similar in the sense that they're like. Why do you think he's better than Mooney? Because Mooney actually like earns a lot of targets. I mean, I don't think Mooney's all that good either. But
you put Mooney on Pittsburgh, how many targets is he getting? Because you're like, he has a lot of targets. He's not earning targets. He's on a team that doesn't have anyone. Cole Kmet earns targets on that team. Like, get out of here.
No, he actually doesn't.
He did last year.
Yeah, not anymore. That day is over.
Yeah, well, wow. Anyway.
I actually, honestly, the Cole Kmet people getting bodied is one of my favorite things this year. That guy sucks so much.
What's his target share this year? It's not that bad.
Oh, it's really bad. He's Cole Kmet.
That's number 20 in the NFL.
Yeah, he's 13%, which is weird because people said that he would get a lot of targets because there was nobody else to throw to, but it seems that didn't matter.
Last year. Like, that's right. Claypool.
Yeah. But Claypool's not. Okay, that's a good point. I think that if Darnell Mooney was on the Pittsburgh Steelers, we wouldn't know his name.
No.
I think he would just run down the field.
I don't even know if he'd get on the field to run down the field. He probably would. I'm being a bit facetious. Like,
I think Mooney's fine, but I think Mooney is like ideally Mooney is like a good stretch Z wide receiver getting 15% of the targets only on go routes. Yeah, like that's probably like a good scenario for Mooney, and he's like a better than average. Like if you're Darnell Mooney would like if he was in like a Donovan Peoples-Jones-esque role, he would be very
Elijah
good.
Moore role.
Actually makes me so sad.
Role for Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. So you think Claypool over Mooney in Chicago for maybe let's not say this year because he just got traded there, but let's say next year you'd be expecting Claypool to outproduce Mooney.
I think so. Yeah. I think you're right. I don't think it's going to happen right away because Mooney is already like entrenched in this offense. Claypool's coming in midseason. He's going to have no time to learn the offense. They're just going to throw him out there and tell him to run like 3 routes on every play, and that's all he's going to do. It's going to be super uninspiring, and it's going to be fun.
To be fair, that's about all the routes that he can run. He's not exactly a polished.
So, right in his wheelhouse. It's perfect. No, but like seriously, he's just going to be. He's probably going to walk into like his similar role in Pittsburgh. Like,
so the time to buy him then, if we want to buy him, is in a month when he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah, don't buy him today because there's going to be some people that think, oh, he's in Chicago now. Also, like, I don't know that we're really going to get Justin Fields throwing passes at a very reasonable clip.
Because Justin Fields has turned around his fantasy value, but he's still not doing anything for the offense. Like Mooney has been the clear top dog in terms of he's like earning a lot of targets or getting a lot of targets, receiving a lot of targets, whatever you want to say. But he's being targeted a lot. It doesn't matter. He's like barely a wide receiver 3. I don't even know if he is a wide receiver 3. He's probably not. Cole Kmet's obviously nothing. Nobody else there is anything.
Did you just say Darnell Mooney's a wide receiver 3, like in fantasy football?
Well, I thought that he was for a second, and then I realized that he's probably like a wide receiver 6.
Matt, you're going to want to cut that section out because Darnell Mooney is actually wide receiver 65 right now.
Oh, that's
he's not a wide receiver.
How can that be? There's nobody else to throw to.
How could that be? There's nobody else to throw to. Oh my goodness! Big hit target strikes again.
Actually, I have a bet in the Discord for most points per game this season, and I had Gabriel Davis. Hoagie has Darnell Mooney, and Wheezy has Rashad Bateman, and boy, we're looking good.
Oh.
Anyhow, I like the idea of the Claypool thing. Like if Fields takes a step forward next year as a passer, because he's been better in fantasy this year and in real life. Most of his improved fantasy production lately is because he's running a lot more and he's passing enough to move the offense, but he's not passing enough to great fantasy value for others. But the hope is that maybe he will in the future, and it looks as though he's no longer like a suicide bomber as a passer. So that probably means that maybe they'll let him pass more.
Like,
I
his
think that
passing
Claypool's
isn't actually that bad. Like he's completing only 58.5% of his passes.
Yeah, but he throws deep.
I was going to say,
he
but on a
chucks deep.
9.2 air yards per attempt.
Right.
And he's got nobody to his best wide receiver is wide receiver 67 in fantasy football. He has no one to throw to. He's not great, don't get me wrong. This isn't Lamar Jackson in year 2 by any stretch.
No.
But like this could happen. Like he could be Jalen Hurts was around kind of this level of passer, I think, last year. I'm not saying he's going to be Jalen Hurts in 20 like Jalen Hurts' third year is not going to be Justin Fields' third year necessarily. Yeah. But I think it's possible that Justin Fields is an NFL starting quarterback for a long time.
Is Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney like the most poverty version of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith possible?
Yes, absolutely. The most poverty version you could find. I love it.
Like, they're even the same. It's like you have one guy who's like big and wears 11 and has a lot of swagger. And then there's like the other guy who's really skinny. And then you have like Cole Kmet is like a really sad version of Dallas Goedert. You just have like their whole offense is just the worst version of the Eagles offense.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
They are the significantly worse Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the actual NFL terms, though, because I think that's interesting.
Wait, I just want to give my final take in on Claypool.
Yeah, go for it.
I think I would like to buy Claypool because I think he's a guy that could pop at some point, and people will still remember his athleticism, and they'll get excited about his size and speed and his RAS score and all that kind of stuff. So he's got good potential for a big value jump, even without big production. He's also probably going to have a reasonable chance of still producing the NFL, and therefore I still want to be buying him. Any second round pick I would buy him for, I would trade off an early second for Chase Claypool at this point.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I probably would not give an early second. I think I'd give a mid to late second.
No, I'd give an early second. I'd rather have Chase Claypool than a lot of players, I think. Like, I'm not saying he's a lock for a top 24, but in the early second, you're not getting guys that are necessarily a lock for a top 24.
No, you're not.
You're getting pretty good guys.
But I would just rather take I would just rather take a swing at getting a guy that I think like either has more potential to be like a top 12 guy, or because like I'm pretty sure at this point Claypool is never going to be a top 12 guy. So I would just rather take like a swing at the unknown of getting maybe a top 12 guy. But I do think it's possible Claypool's a top 24 guy. I wouldn't like write him off as that being possible.
Well, after his rookie year, I think it's reasonable to suggest it was very likely he would be a top 24.
Oh, I think it was.
And
after his rookie year, I was in on Claypool. His second year and third year have left a lot to be desired. But
like you're right. He's probably not a top 12 guy, but I think it's still like a better than average chance that he's a top 24.
I wrote about Claypool actually in one of my weekly thoughts like about a month ago or something. I think it was like it was the game where Pickens finally started earning targets, and that was when I was like, okay, like Claypool's clearly like probably not gonna be the number 2 in this offense, or if he is, he's like the 2, like A/B/C with the other two guys. And I was like, Claypool's probably dead for the rest of this year. He's probably dead as long as he's in Pittsburgh in terms of being a meaningful asset. But like guys with his rookie profile just don't like usually vanish into thin air. If I were to guess, he's going to end up in some other team at some point, and he's probably going to have a season where he starts popping up back into our lives again. And I hope that happens because he's interesting.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think is going to happen. He's going to float around for a while. He's valued at like a mid to late second. So I think that's pretty fair value. I would buy him for that pretty easily. I'm probably not going to go off for early second for him, knowing now that he's not worth that. But maybe that changes with the trade. I don't know. But yeah.